Okay. Okay.
Namaste. Good morning, Elora.
Good morning.
Namaste and good morning to all of you.
Namaste.
Welcome to Conversations with the Goddess Day 4.
So we are just recapping for anyone who hasn't been watching at all what we're looking at. We've declared that we would take 7 days and look into the experience of the descent. I'm just going to change that tiny bit like that, okay? Mm-hmm. So look at the experience of descent that is an unacknowledged aspect of life. We are in a world that doesn't recognize that the descent is a part of healing. So we're in a descent, and we're bringing different resources together to understand and recognize the experience. So we've talked about the heroine's journey and the descent that goes from the break with the feminine into an over-identification with the masculine, and then into an experience of spiritual, like an experience of achievement that's false and unfulfilling, and finally drives you into the descent to the goddess. So that's a map of the heroine's journey. We're going to show you that from Maureen's book today. And we've also been talking about the Inanna myth, which is the first experience that we have in our cultures of a descent, and what were the gifts that came from it. What did she had to, what did she have to let go of symbolically in order to get to the new her that was going to be birthed out of that underworld experience? So we've been talking about the descent of Inanna. We've been talking about the dream, the idea that in order to change a culture's actions, we have to change the dream that they dream, their collective dream, and that the collective dream of more, which is the white Western dream of more, is the thing that has to change. So we've been talking about how what's really happening is we're coming into a time of redreaming the world, and that it is fundamentally, in my opinion, about we rejected the feminine and we rejected sexuality at the same time. We rejected the feminine and we rejected intuition and right brain living and all the emotional, intuitive parts of life. And now we're coming back into a time of re-embracing the feminine and re-embracing it in a new way, individually, collectively. And I asked you last night what you would say were the gifts of the descent, because you've recently been in a descent, and so I wanted to just have you speak about that.
Beautiful. Thank you for summarizing everything that we've been sharing. It's very deep, and so I'm going to speak about the gifts of a descent from a personal place where the wisdom is born. So the gifts that come from the descent, there are many gifts, and each descent is going to be perfect. Oops, storage room is full.
Just push it down. We don't know what that means.
It says the storage is almost full on my camera, so hopefully this video doesn't get cut off. If it does, we'll change phones and we'll start again. So what are the gifts? The gifts of a descent? Well, there are really so many gifts, and the purpose, maybe we can begin to start, what's the purpose of the descent? I feel like there are two ultimate purposes of a descent, no matter how many times you make the descent. I feel in my life I've probably made the descent 10,000 times, I'm guessing. Like, well, it's more than I can count. Okay. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but many times. Even some were not as dramatic and profound, or, you know, they're all profound and powerful, but some were more dramatic in terms of the feelings and the emotional experiences that I sort of unfolded through that descent journey. So the two ultimate purposes of a descent, the first one is the soul purpose, and the second one is unconditional love. Those are the two ultimate reasons, and you could really say maybe they're actually the same thing. So those are the two reasons that we go on a descent ultimately. It can manifest as so many things in our outer world that pulls us and calls us in to reflect inward. There's so many things and people that can trigger us to then go like, whoa. And one of our favorite people on the planet, Reverend Michael Beckwith. He says this famous, this amazing line that if your life is falling apart, it's actually falling together. And so that's a great way to just recognize if you're in a descent, if you're being called into your underworld journey, and if you see that your life is falling apart, then just you want to step into your witness self and find your breath and say, aha, I'm not going to be, as the Buddhists teach, excuse me, I'm not going to be pulled around on the wheel of chaos, but I'm actually going to center myself, align myself with this holy breath that is the source of everything, and I'm going to connect with that wise witnessing part of myself, that all of us have this wise witnessing self, and I'm going to turn within myself to take my inner eyes. We have these outer eyes, they say, the windows of the soul. Well, we want to look inside of our own soul, and we want to get in touch with what is it that we see there? What is it that we feel there? And what is the purpose of all of this? Well, it's to get close to our soul purpose, to find why is it that our soul has incarnated here in this body? Why is it that our Creator has given us this life? What is the purpose of it? And it is ultimately the deepest love that we're all seeking. So if we continue to seek this love outside of ourselves, it will, as Alora has spoken so poignantly about, if we continue to seek the love outside of ourselves, that insatiable appetite will continue to consume, and it will still feel unsatisfied and unfulfilled. And it's because we all have a deeper calling within ourselves, and this deeper calling is redreaming our world. This deeper calling is finding out what's special. We're each so special, and we each have so many special gifts, and so we want to go on our descent ultimately to find the gold. There's nothing more valuable than that treasure of our own inner awareness, of diving into the place of discovering what is in the underworld, and seeing that the difficulties in life, the challenges in life, the so-called ugly and messy that so many of us push away, including myself, so many times, especially in relationship. That's when things can get really, really interesting, is that when you're in a relationship, things can get really interesting. And in fact, we're going to be diving deeper into relationships, so anyone who can really benefit from that, Laura and I are going to continue this conversation and going deeper into that. But right now we're speaking individually, on an individual level, how each one of us can be the change in the world by embodying the change, by getting closer to our soul purpose and really stepping into that. So the deepest love comes from within the descent, and those are the purposes. And would you like to share anything about the purposes before we connect maybe more on, there's a couple of other areas that are really valuable.
Well, I want to, first of all, just take a breath, because that was a lot to take in.
That was
so
a lot
let's
to take
everybody
in.
take a breath, big breath, and let it go. I always love to breathe in through my nose and out through my mouth. And then feel and hear the sound of my breath as I let go. So big breath one more time. And let go. So I'm actually wanting to speak a little bit to this idea of not seeking love outside yourself. See, I hear that, and I understand that, and I also want to challenge that in some way, because I see over and over and over again that the desire to experience personal love that is with people outside of yourself is huge and important. What are you looking at? Looking at
I'm
everybody
just trying
who's
to see, well, because there's people making comments, so I'm just tuning in to see if there's questions, and some of them are saying, are you speaking English? And
Oh, well, we can't stop.
Yeah.
So recently I decided to stop using the term unconditional love, because the truth is love is conditional. If somebody shot my child, I would not be standing in love with that person. There are circumstances that can be extreme. You can have a big tolerance, a big open arm, but there are conditions that will change and challenge love, right? I've begun to speak about loving without reservation. So today I went down to the ocean and I was wind dancing, and there were this group of Asian women that were posing for pictures, as people always do these days with our cameras. Our phones, we're constantly taking pictures of ourselves and each other. And I know that if I give them the silk, they'll get even more fun pictures, and especially if I take the pictures, right? So I started doing that with them, and they got so excited, and we couldn't talk at all to each other. But we were united in this love without reservation that was flowing between us as we expressed femininity without reservation, and as we had fun without reservation. And it is more joyful to connect with people than to live a life where you're all just completely self-sufficient.
Okay,
So I want to say that the seeking for things, satisfaction outside yourself, particularly in the realm of things, possessions, status, all that stuff, that's where the lack of fulfillment really comes from. And seeking love in the way we're doing it romantically is obviously the source of most of our pain. There's a beginning to love everybody and actively do it and engage with people and not pull back and touch people and go exactly the opposite direction of everybody's afraid to touch anybody and all that stuff. You get prosecuted. No. We want to start loving each other for no reason. Marcy Shimoff wrote a book, Love for No Reason. I haven't read it. Maybe I will, Marcy. But I like the title. And that's really what I'm calling women forth for, and not just women, but really all of us forth now, is to become a ministry of love, to start transmitting your love to the world for no reason, to people you know and don't know, and that can redream the world. So I appreciate that we can work inside, and I totally agree. The witness is key. Embracing the process is key, and it is the source of your rebirth. It is a rebirthing process, and you will come out more alive, more joyful, more connected, more yourself through the process. If you know it's happening, if you have a guide to it, and if you have support for it. So that's what we're trying to bring right now. That's all I have to say.
That's beautiful, Laura.
Okay.
Yeah. So exactly, we are coming out as these, you could call us midwives, priestesses. In the ancient cultures, in the indigenous tribes of South America, of the natives of this land, and the natives of Australia, New Zealand, and then also if you look at some of the Western ancient cultures of Egypt and the ancient lands of Egypt and Greece, they had these, they had people to support these inner mysteries of life and these journeys that we go on as souls, not just as humans, but actually as souls. And these people were called shamans, or they were called priestesses or oracles. And so just speaking personally, that has taken me more than 30 years to come out of the closet, that I've been very much hiding and playing very small, really serving the people around me, friends, family, community, and just really afraid to be seen, afraid to really let my colors be revealed, to share with people my weirdness and share with people my gifts. And so I just want to invite everybody to recognize your weirdness, to recognize...
No, let's don't use that. Wildness. No. It's your wildness.
Okay, let's go with wildness.
Wildness. Weird means it's judged against the standard.
Well, let's
wildness just means free.
Let's change the judgment of weird. For me, I feel weird feels good, but wild is cool too. I like wild. Okay, so we're going with wilds.
Wild. Yeah.
So just inviting everyone to allow that inner wildness. Part of the descent, when you go into the underworld, there are many gifts that come out of it, and one of them, eventually, well, I would say it's like there are depths to embodiment, and there are depths to embodying power, and there are depths to real, true power, not the power of control or whatever our mind may think of power, but the sense of power within ourselves and the sense of that confidence and that purpose. And so I would say that by saying yes to our wildness and saying yes to our dreams, we're actually going inside of ourselves to connect with that power. And through the different initiations, you grow in the power, you grow in the trust, you grow in faith, you grow in compassion, you grow in forgiveness. And these types of things actually allow for effortless love. So maybe if we don't even say unconditional, we say effortless love. That's how I feel.
Beautiful too.
Effortless.
Love without reservation.
Live without
Effortless love.
Effortless love.
I think that's good.
Yeah. So
Yay.
thank you for tuning in. This is day 4 of 7. We're going to continue this journey with everyone. We appreciate all your support and comments and feedback.
Arvin, I like what you're saying there. I haven't got to read the whole thing, but I can see a little bit. It's pretty great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Blessings. Have a
Blessings.
beautiful day. See you tomorrow.